And welcome on in to another episode of Getting Wild with Terry and Friends, NHL season preview show edition. And today we are going to talk about the Red Wings, the Detroit Red Wings, who had a pretty big offseason. But before we get to that, Detroit Lenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Maybe let people know a little bit about you, and then we'll get started.
I am one of the biggest Red Wings fans you're going to meet. I am from the city of Detroit, residing out here in Las Vegas, Nevada, where it's basically the sun. That's as hot as it is out here all the time. I work at Picks and Parlays. I'm on Picks and Parlays all over the place, hosting, producing, handicapping here and there. Been known to bet a few hockey games in my lifetime. Been known to bet a few games in my lifetime, just in general. So I appreciate you having me on. I know we did a football show, I think, once together. We've done some stuff on Picks and Parlays, but getting on board with the big boys here, it's awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Couldn't talk the Red Wings without Detroit Lenny.
Can't do it. It's not feasible.
We will jump into the show and look at the Red Wings offseason additions and subtractions, and quite a bit, actually. They were a team that did quite a bit. So we'll look, the first thing that they did was go out and trade for Ville Husso from the Blues, signing Andrew Kopp, Austin Czarnik, Dominic Kubalik. What Chicago was doing letting him go, I have no idea. But Steve Yzerman was like, thank you very much, and was quick to grab him. Great decision there. David Perron, also from the Blues. Ben Sherratt, Mark Pysyk, Olli Mata, and Robert Haig. So 4 defensemen there. Definitely beefed up the defense on the way out. It's kind of funny that the Red Wings trade for Ville Husso, and then Thomas Greiss signs with St. Louis. So I guess that's kind of interesting. They didn't do this swap in the trade, but Greiss decided to sign with the Blues. Sam Gagner left as well. Danny DeKeyser, longtime Detroit Red Wing, left. Also Mark Stahl, Philip Larson, Ole Ulevy, Ryan Murphy, and Calvin Pickard. So some guys obviously leaving there, but when you look at what the Red Wings brought in versus what they lost, it was definitely an improvement for the Red Wings. Even Husso and Perron by themselves would be an improvement, but then you're also getting Kopp and Kubalik and some defensemen. It was just a great offseason for the Red Wings, in my opinion, at least. Ian, we'll go to you next. What do you think about the Red Wings offseason?
Very, very good offseason. I like a lot of what they've done. Certainly in terms of they've upgraded them, the team at so many different positions. They brought in some experience on the blue line with the likes of Ben Sherratt, who I think is going to be a nice addition there. Olli Mata, I think, has proven that he can still play pretty decent level along that blue line. You bring in Andrew Kopp, who is, I think, one of the more underrated two-way centers in the NHL. Doesn't get talked about as much, doesn't get the accolades he probably should. He was great with Winnipeg. He was excellent in his brief time with the Rangers after they got him in the playoffs. I thought he was very solid for them, responsible both ends of the ice. His offensive component has certainly improved as well. Great addition here. And you need depth down the middle. You need good center ice strength at that position, and Andrew Kopp is going to help give them that. And Ville Husso, who had a breakout season in net for the St. Louis Blues last year, a very, very solid goaltender, very good goaltender last year. The one thing that's interesting about Ville Husso is he is going from a St. Louis team that pretty solid defensively to a Detroit team. There's a few more question marks. We did see Nedeljkovic last year when he went from Carolina to Detroit, much weaker blue line in front of him, struggled with it a little bit. Are we going to see that same kind of thing with Husso? We'll have to wait and see. But I know this guy's an above-average goalie from what we saw last year, and you hope it's not just a one-year wonder and he's his play declines. I have no reason to believe that. He looked very good. It's going to be a question of can he sustain a solid level of play with maybe a weaker collective blue line in front of him. But I like the additions. Husso, Kopp, Kubalik for more offense. David Perron, what an addition. You talk about a guy that's going to immediately improve your power play. David Perron will absolutely do that for the Detroit Red Wings because he's been a power play dynamo wherever he's been in the past. Vegas, St. Louis, go on down the list. He has improved a team's power play. He is a weapon with the man advantage. He's good 5-on-5, even strength offensively too, but he's especially good on the power play. And that's where you're really going to notice him paying the dividends off for this Red Wings team. As far as the free agents or the subtractions, I should say, no one they'll overly miss. Mark Stahl's best days probably behind him. Danny DeKeyser's injured and his plays declined. Combination with that. Sam Gagner now at the tail end of his career. Thomas Greiss just a backup goalie. Ryan Murphy, someone that, they parted ways with, but, he's always had consistency issues as well. So it's not any one player in the subtractions list that I would say, wow, Detroit is going to really, really miss them. And then in the additions, I thought they really made this team a lot better. So nothing but thumbs up for me for the offseason and the job Stevie Y did.
I totally agree. Lenny, what do you think here? Additions and subtractions from your Red Wings?
What he said, basically. Listen, Thomas Greiss, if you've ever seen me on a stream with the Earl Sports Brothers or anything, I would fight Thomas Greiss in the street right now if he showed up in front of my house. I think I can't stand him. It's a personal thing with me and him. I can't get on the right side of him. I try not to put money on my Wings just because my heart's in it and I want to make sure the handicapper in me, whatever. So I kind of stay away. But Thomas Greiss has just ruined my night sometimes, multiple times. So I would fight, and he would probably whip my butt, just so we're clear. But I'd fight him. So I'm glad he's gone. Danny DeKeyser is another one that I know Ian had mentioned, but he just can't seem to stay on the ice. He just can't seem to do that. And I think Mark Stahl has played his games. Is obviously his peak is way behind him. Billy Husso, though, I think is a huge improvement on that. And I'm hoping for I'm hoping this kind of lights a little fire under Nedeljkovic, and maybe you get a little goalie battle, you get a nice 1-2 punch there. So we're not, it's just relying on one guy. I really like what they did with the defense. But David Perron definitely helps our power play. I mean, really, I can't stress this. I'm not a big prop guy, player prop guy. I admittedly, if you get a player prop from me, it's probably because I got it from one of these guys on the panel here. I'm just saying. So the defense, though, has to step up. And I think with the new coach in place with Derek Lalonde, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He looks like the guy from the Minions or whatever. But I think he improves their defense right out the gate. And then you add some fresh eyes, some fresh feet in there, get some skates going. I think this team can maybe make some waves. I'm not saying they're going to run away with a cup here or anything like that, but I definitely like 2 thumbs up for the offseason and what they did. We believe in Stevie Yzerman here. In Yzerman we trust, and so far he has not let us down in the offseason.
For sure. Richie loves hockey props. Tim says Red Wings are trash and Sabres for the cup.
I can't say that.
And then Richie says he cashed a lot last season on the Wings.
Red Wings overs. Cash last season. Made car payments, for Christ's sake.
Wings are going to be a team you want to bet in October, I think, before we really see how good they are. If they're as good as I think they're going to be this year, you might want to bet them early before books adjust. I think they're going to be an early October team to back. Vito, what do you think? Additions and subtractions for the Wings?
I agree totally about that, actually, Terry. And I don't think actually the price will change afterwards. I think afterwards Wings might just start lose some games, but they might go on an hot start. That's for sure. That's a great thing you mentioned there. And yeah, well, I mean, regarding the lineup, I mean, regarding the additions, there's a whole new line for the team with Andrew Cotton in the middle. I mean, there's two wingers, one left winger, which is Kubalik. Peron and Kubalik, which is right winger. Three good forwards, plus we have two D-men, which is Olimata and Ben Sherrod, right? Who can play amazing hockey if they got the great linemen. I mean, in the end of the day, it's all about the line mates. You know, if you go to some team and you don't have some nice line mates, obviously you cannot play good hockey. You know, so it all depends if you have great players around you. I mean, and that's what Steve Eiserman is doing here. I think he has brought in the right players. I mean, we have all the young guys played pretty okay last year. I mean, of course, there was some games where they just lacked, the focus by then. They allowed, 10 goals from Toronto in one game. So, yeah, that's why these guys are brought in here. So I think it's going to change a lot. And Ville Husso in goal, I think he's a little bit different breed than Nedeljkovic. So I think he can play very well. I mean, he can make some crucial saves, and that's what's needed for the teams. I mean, even if he lets in 4 goals, or 3, you know, if he can make that crucial stop at the game, which is 3-3 or 4-4, then it's a great goalie. I mean, you know, Bobrovsky lives like that. So, so kind of like that. So yeah, I like those additions. I think they were very amazing. And regarding the subtractions, yeah, also you guys both mentioned. And there's nothing really to look at which stands out as a big loss. I mean, some D-man which were not too. Nobody was actually good from that D-man last year there. I mean, except the new guy, you know, and someone else perhaps. But the new guy is very good. So I forget his name. I mean, what's his name?
Mo Sider.
Mo Sider, exactly. You know, so that guy is amazing.
You gotta remember that name. It's going to be around for a while.
Future.
Yeah, right. Well, sometimes
Nick Lidstrom Part 2.
Yep.
Exactly. Some last names fell out of your head. Sometimes it was a long off season, you know. So anyway, so yeah, I like everything here. I think it's an amazing lineup now. I think the ratings are doing noise early, and we're gonna see how it turns out.
All right, Isaac says Bruins, Sabres, and then Wings. Nick is putting Islanders in there, and then Kraken and Isles.
I'm actually traveling back to Detroit for a little mini Detroit sports trip at the beginning of November, and I'll be seeing my Wings not at Joe Louis Arena, at Little Caesars Arena, playing Nick Earl's New York Islanders. When I'm predicting the score right now on November 5th, I'm predicting the score for the November 5th game: Red Wings 7, Islanders 1.
Nice beatdown. We will definitely see. It's recorded now. So make sure to get your exact score bets in when you are able to. But we'll look at the second part of the show, and that's looking at the top prospects and the upcoming free agents for the Red Wings. Obviously, prospects here that I've listed are just guys that aren't already with the team. They already have quite a few prospects that are now on the team, so not considered prospects anymore. But Edvinsson, their Detroit fans and management are very high on as a future defenseman there. Marco Kasper, they just drafted this year. Sebastian Casa playing tonight in the preseason game for the Red Wings, so we'll see how he does there. Jonathan Bergen and Albert Johansson. The Wings, obviously, with their last 5+ years, they've been building the prospect pool. After 25 years, right? 25 years in the playoffs, you're going to need time to rebuild that prospect pool, which they definitely have over the last few years. Looking at upcoming free agents, there is a big list there. Dylan Larkin, obviously, at the top there. I'm assuming hometown boy Larkin will get re-signed again. Tyler Bertuzzi, Pia Suter, Sundqvist, Olimata on 1-year deal. Alex Nedeljkovic. So this is a prove-it year for him, who's a UFA after the year. Giovanni Smith, Lindstrom, Pissick, Wallman, Osterley, Adam Ernie. So there's some names there, obviously. Larkin, Bertuzzi, possibly Nedeljkovic will be probably the main guys that Detroit are looking at in the offseason to re-sign. Vito, what do you think about upcoming free agents and prospects for the Red Wings?
Oh, I'm not digging too much in those top prospects always. Actually, I was watching some friend now the preseason game. There was Red Wings playing like white against red. I mean scrimmage. So there was few of those guys. Actually, Casper I think is pretty good. I think he was good. He played and I noticed him. And well, regarding the upcoming free agents, I mean Dylan Larkin is definitely a huge name. I think he's so underrated. Again, we go back to the same story. It's about the players around you. So give him like elite wings, and I mean he will be elite, you know. So I think he's very good, and it's the future of the team. Say well, Tyler Bertuzzi also he's still pretty young. Well, I think he lacked something a little bit last year, but that's why he's now an upcoming free agent, and now it should be a huge year for him. You know, he has to produce. I mean, this is the year. I mean, I'm not sure how old is he. Well, like 21 or something like that.
27.
I mean, oh, 27
Bertuzzi.
already. 27. That's a lot. Well, that he needs to produce definitely.
He's old.
He needs to produce, and the time is now. Then we go to Pius Sutter. Not sure about him. Ernie, also a depth guy, I guess. Sandquist, Oli Mara. Well, again, people around you. I think Mara could be a good D, you know. So I think he's okay. I think they should reassign him. I mean, he's just now playing the first year. I'm sorry. So yeah, definitely, 1 year contract, which makes sense. So he's gonna have play good, perhaps. And Alex Nedeljkovic, again, maybe around what the people who is around you. He's got better defense, as Ian said. You know, as Carolina, he was pretty good there. So maybe that's the questions here. So maybe it's not always a goalkeeper, and that's actually true. So let's see how the season goes for him. You know, and that's it, perhaps.
All right. Ian, what do you think? Prospects and free agents for the Red Wings?
Yeah, another top 5 to top 10 prospect pool. And it's really splitting hairs between, like, if they're not in the top 5, they're in like the 6, 7 position, because there's Buffalo's right up there, Columbus, LA. There's a lot of teams with just tremendous. Columbus, as I mentioned, Minnesota's still pretty good with their prospect pool. So, but Detroit's right there. I mean, and what I like about what they've done, Steve Yzerman and the scouts, is they've drafted key, prospects with high ceiling at all positions. They didn't just focus at goaltending. They didn't just focus on the forwards. They didn't just focus on the defensemen. Steve Yzerman spread the wealth, with his prospects. Look what he's done. Obviously, it started with Mo Seider. He's going to be a dominant defenseman in this league for a long time. Lucas Raymond, drafted 4th overall. He's just scratching the surface with the Red Wings. Another Swedish defenseman, Simon Edvinsson, in 2021. Marco Kasper in 2022. Sebastian Kosa, the goaltender, 15th overall in 2021. And then there's also a bunch of other high-level, high-ceiling picks that are still waiting in the wings that are going to continue to develop. Berggren, Liam Downer-Nilsson, Carter Mazer, William Wallinder, Albert Johansson. I mean, there's a bunch of them still on the way for the Detroit Red Wings as well. Dmitry Buchelnikov, there we go. Dmitry Buchelnikov from St. Petersburg there. And they say that was kind of a steal. The Red Wings were able to get him 52nd, round 2 this year in this past draft. So great job, obviously. And as we always say, the scouts deserve their credit every bit as much as the GM for a good draft. And we're seeing the Red Wings obviously draft develop very well, and they're set up for success and for long-term, being a good team long-term consistently for the next 5 to 10 years. Free agent-wise, look, Dylan Larkin, you want to get something done. And obviously that's important, with him being the captain, him being, I think, one of the premier pieces of this team. Bertuzzi is someone that's fit in nicely on the top 6. Those are going to be the players I think they really target. I think for Nedeljkovic, they'd like to bring him back, but I think some of that's going to be, how does he play this year? How does he work in tandem with Husso? Is he going to be a guy that's going to be able to match Husso? If you got to think Husso's the favorite to be the number 1 goalie for the Red Wings to start the regular season, but it doesn't mean all of a sudden Nedeljkovic is the forgotten man and chopped liver. He's still a capable goalie. He's still going to want to start as many games as possible. So his performance will probably dictate what they do with him in terms of his free agent status in the offseason. So there'll be a busy offseason with all those names that are on that list, but particularly Nedeljkovic, Bertuzzi, Larkin. Prospects, you can't ask for much more. Detroit is well stocked for many years to come.
Lenny, what do you think? Prospects and free agents for the Wings?
I'll tell you what, if I had a crystal ball and I wish I had just 3 wishes, I want Sebastian Cossa to gain like 4 years in age right now. He's 19. He's about to be 20 years old. He's not even 20 years old. I think it's end of November. He turns 20 years old. The kid's like 6'6", 200 pounds, 215. He's just a wall, and he's just a kid. And so I want them to develop him properly and come up, because he could be a cornerstone of that. He could be not an issue for years and years. And I think with Steve Yzerman, to Ian's point, is just spreading that wealth and bringing it up the way that he was brought up in that organization, to be honest with you, and how they had just pieces. It wasn't just, if you look back at those old Red Wings teams, they weren't just one guy that was just whatever, they had a team. It was a total team atmosphere. And you think of the guys that he brought in to be part of that management: Nick Lindstrom, Nicholas Kronwall, Dan Cleary, Chris Draper, Kurt Malpe. Those are guys that were part of that organization with him, that brought up and part of that scouting team operations. I mean, they got Chris Draper is the director of amateur scouting. That's the guy you want. The guy that will just, the guy they got for $1, in a trade, whatever. That's the guy that knows that team, that is proud of that city, proud of that organization, that's going to bring in the right guys. Sebastian Cossa and Simon Edvinsson. I know I'm horrible with names. Those are my 2 that are really like out of the top prospects there, that I think could be with this team for a long period of time. Obviously, Dylan Larkin is your top free agent you want to sign right there. I mean, hometown guy. You obviously want him. Tyler Bertuzzi, if he can get himself a vaccination card, could be a top winger in the league, just so he could play in Canada, for Christ's sake.
He's not going to have to worry about that now. They've thrown away all the regulations.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God, because I think that's what held him back last year, and in a lot of stuff. I mean, he just didn't play those games. Nedeljkovic, do I want them to keep him around? Yes. I'm hoping in a perfect world, Husso can be that number 1 guy for 2-3 more years. Nedeljkovic be that backup if we need to, until Sebastian Cossa. I'm putting all my eggs in basket with that kid. I can't. Every time he is on anything, highlight or anything, I watch him. He's a monster. So I want him in net, and I'm probably too high on him right out the gate. I mean, because he is 19 after all. So we'll see, but yeah.
Yeah, well, to add just a little bit, I think Detroit Red Wings for years has been very known team to find very good prospects. There's so many players in history, like at least the Pavel Datsyuk, which round he was picked. I mean, so yeah. And all names you mentioned, they're actually legacy. That's a dynasty of the Draper and the rest of the guys.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I mean, they all play together,
I would love to see it again, kind of come full circle. That late 90s, early 2000s team just kind of take it and go from on the ice to behind the scenes and bring in the next generation. As a Red Wings fan, don't make me cry. I'm just saying it would be great. It would be great.
Hey, the next few years are going to be good times to be a Red Wings fan. Looking at the possible lineup here for the Wings, according to Cap Friendly, wow, I really like that top 6. You got Bertuzzi, Larkin, and Lucas Raymond, Kopp, Vrana, and David Perron on the second line. But even that third line, people are going to talk about the top 2 lines for Detroit, but Philip Zadina hasn't quite got there yet. I think if he's with Kubalik and Pius Suter, I think that could be a really low-key, good third line. If that's how it works out. Don't sleep on that third line.
Not even a little bit.
Player props. might be huge with those guys because they're not the top two lines. I'm sure Ian will get into that. On the fourth line, Michael Rasmussen, Joe Velino is there as a possibility. You've got Zarnik if you want a little bit of extra fight in the fourth line. Lundqvist, Adam Ernie. Looking at defense, improved. We've been talking about Seider. He is the guy on this defense right now. And then goaltending, the duo of Husso and Nedeljkovic. Both could struggle or both could be really good. One could struggle. Goaltending is a very picky position, and a lot of teams have goaltending questions in the league this year. But I think Detroit have less goaltending questions than they've had in a while. I think both these guys are going to kind of have a friendly rivalry, and I like Detroit. I like this lineup. That's basically all I have to say about that. Vito, we'll go to you next. What do you think about the lineup here for the Wings?
I mean, it looks good. It looks good. Raymond was amazing last year, and if Bertuzzi can play well, then Larkin, it's amazing first line. Perhaps it's gonna be mixed up. I mean, of course, I ain't gonna stay like this. So the second line is also Andrew Copp, amazing. David Perron, he can play. I mean, shorthander, he can play power play, he can play 5-on-5. That's a player you want in the team. He has the experience. I mean, I think he fits perfectly there, exactly for the system. Jakub Vrana, fast guy. I mean, definitely will fit in there. Well, it's going to be flipped up. I think what you have put up together is very good. I mean, we could have seen also, of course, like Larkin playing. I mean, with Perron, of course, that could happen. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. So the top six is amazing. And then we have Dominik Kubalik. I mean, he could play also higher. He could be a top six, I think, for this team. I think there will be a small competition between these guys. Let's say Kubalik, Vrana, maybe Bertuzzi. Well, Raymond obviously was very good. And then we have Zadina. He also can play amazing hockey. He's super fast, same as Vrana. So, well, then the fourth line, okay, but you don't need a good fourth line in NHL. I mean, if you have these good top six, decent top six, and also a third line which can put some goals in, then the fourth line you just need there to give a rest for the first three lines, just to keep the puck out of the zone. Don't allow any goals. So let's see how it's gonna go. Of course, it's not like the top, I think, 10 lineup in the NHL. Maybe not. Well, but not even maybe like 15th somewhere. Could be a middle lineup, maybe 20th, but definitely not as bad as last year. And in the defensive core, let's say Mata, Seider, and Ben Sherratt, if can play better than he did last year, then these three D could be very good. I mean, you at least need, if you have three good D, then I mean they can somehow put them together. They're gonna have always a line mate great to play with. Philip Hronek was also not bad last year. And then going to the goalies, Ville Husso. I mean, I like the guy. Finnish goalies are good. I mean, from the except I guess Koskinen. But the Koskinen was just very big. Well, here we have like Jussi Saros, right? Pekka and so many Finnish goalies. So I think Ville Husso also can become just better and better. I know it depends if he's just gonna get better or not. I mean, it was his last year was his first year, so you cannot his first year when he played amazing, right? Like, so it's very hard now to actually predict. He could have a downgrade year. He could have even a better year, So we're gonna see that, and then there's a great backup, and I think it's gonna be a competition between them two. I mean, we're gonna see how it goes. I don't think Nedeljkovic is also that very bad. I mean, I think he's gonna have his moments, and we're gonna see who's gonna step out because now the defensive core is also better, so we can expect a better game from the goalies here.
All right, Ian, what do you think about the Red Wings lineup?
Wow, I mean, in terms of scoring, and you hinted at it earlier, Terry, with the third line might even be able to chip in a bunch of goals for them. Kubalik, Suter, and Philip Zadina hasn't even tapped into his full potential yet. And we've been waiting for this guy who's just a dynamic scorer in junior to really get going and hit that 20 goal, 25 goal. He hasn't even come close to that yet. Like, he had his most goals in a season this is fourth year, really his second full year with Detroit. He went from 6 goals to 10 goals. Not exactly the jump we expected from him. He's capable of more than that. I think he's got more to give. And if we see that from Zadina, look out. And Suter's a good offensive-minded center, good at the other end too. Kubalik comes over from Chicago. This is a guy that we've seen in the past, can give you offense. He gave you 30 goals in 2019. Offensive production has declined a little bit the last 2 years, but not saying it can't pick back up again. And then it goes without saying a full season of Bertuzzi, because he won't be prohibited from playing in Canada this year as they waive the vaccination requirements across the border. So Bertuzzi will play a full year. Larkin, is going to give you what you always tend to get from him. And look you got a guy playing for a contract, right? Unrestricted free agent in the offseason. There's that motivation to say, hey, I got 31 goals, 38 assists, 69 points last year. Great season, incredible season, but let's do better. Let's go for 35. Let's go for 40. And he's going to have that motivation and that to do that because he wants that big payday in the offseason. Lucas Raymond. Some people actually had the gall to say he was disappointing. But first of all, the expectations on these kids, in the first round, because they're fourth overall like he was, are astronomical, and they're through the roof. It's the same shit they said about Lafreniere with the Rangers, and because he maybe didn't match expectations that first year, they're calling him a bust already. They're not doing that with Raymond, but they're saying, I kind of expected more. 23 goals, 34 assists, 57 points in 82 games, not good enough? I think that's a pretty good first season. I know he's fourth overall, but you expect more right away. Give it time. He's going to be a good one. There's no question about that. So much that he does well. Sees the ice well, passes well, great release. All that is what Lucas Raymond gives you. Just give it time. It'll come. And at the second line, Jacob Vrana is just a bona fide scorer. That's what his value is to the team. He's really kind of limited. He's not the greatest away from the puck, but the one thing he does is score goals. And he's got a way to put the puck in the net. That's why he's here. And him with Kopp, who's a defensive-minded guy. That's the thing. Braun is not the greatest defensive forward, but you got a great defensive center to play with in Andrew Kopp. And he's going to maybe make up for or clean up some of the messes and the mistakes maybe Vrana makes away from the puck. And Perron, obviously, it goes without saying he's going to improve this offense. So you look at those third lines or those top three lines, they're going to be very good. We haven't even seen Joe Veleno yet really, take a step forward either. This is a guy that was a first-round pick. What if you get more out of him this year and he cracks the lineup routinely? And he's going to be in a fight because now there's so much more depth in the center ice position. Joe Veleno is going to have to work hard just to be on this team. The blue line's better. Ben Sherratt, I like Ben Sherratt's game. I do. He works. He's blocks shots. He's in the right spot most of the time. Does he take the odd penalty? Yes, but he's an aggressive defenseman. You're not going to penalize him for that too much. Mo Seider, goes without saying, he's going to be the cornerstone, the pillar of strength of this blue line for many years to come. Oli Mata is a nice pickup. Philip Ronick is certainly a defenseman that made his strides last year. Then you've got your depth guys, Jordan Osterley, Gustav Lindstrom, Robert Hagg in the bottom defensive grouping. So I think depth on defense is still a work in progress for Detroit. Like if they suffer cluster injuries on the blue line, it's going to hurt this hockey team. But if they stay relatively healthy and the top six, projected starting six, don't suffer too many injuries, they'll be fine. And of course, they've got a great duo in net, Husso and Nedeljkovic. Although, just like we saw Nedeljkovic's play decline going from a better Carolina blue line to a weaker Detroit blue line last year, there is a small concern for me that could happen for Husso too. A strong St. Louis blue line to a little bit of a weaker, less experienced Detroit blue line, but a very good goaltender. You just got to believe in what you saw last year until proven otherwise with a guy like Ville Husso. So very good lineup for Detroit. The only concern I have is going to be the depth on defense.
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%. Lenny, what do you think about your Red Wings lineup here?
I love the offensive side of it. I think there's a lot of depth there, and you can get goals from any one of those guys in the top three lines. And I think all of them will score. I think that third line is deadly. And it's assuming the projections look just like this, I wouldn't change anything as far as the lineup goes. The defense, listen, we're going to have to outscore some people. I mean, that we don't make no bones about it here. I mean, we're going to have to come in there and we're going to have to outscore some people. We're in a hurry up and wait kind of situation, I think, at net. So, we've seen what happens. Like, I mean, to these guys' point, you've seen what happened when Nedeljkovic comes here with a little bit of weaker of a blue line. But I think that blue line is definitely improved. So I think that helps out both of those guys in net. I think with fingers crossed, everybody stays healthy. This team is kind of okay. at defense. They're not horrible, but they're okay. I love the pairing of Ventura and Mortiz Sider. I love that because you got the arguably one of the best young defensemen in the league with Sider and a seasoned vet who's been around, who is a physical defenseman, who will tell him, hey, you can be, because Sider, man, that kid can make moves like he plays center. He's not just a defense. I mean, he is just a defenseman, don't get me wrong, but he can make moves, and sometimes he gets a little too finessey for me. And I want him to be more physical. And if you're going to learn physicality from a seasoned veteran defenseman, Ventura's your guy. Just don't take the dumb penalties, and we're okay. And Sherratt does take some dumb. He has taken some dumb penalties. Like, I'm the first one I don't want him on my team, or hated him when he didn't play against my team. Now that he's on my team, I'm going to make all kinds of reasons and excuses of why that wasn't a dumb penalty. So, but I like the lineup as far as the front nine. I mean, the top nine, basically any one of those guys from the top three lines can score. I don't want to say at will, but they're going to put up some points. And this power play is going to be fun to watch. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with blaming the referees.
Yeah, you're blaming the ref.
I myself have blamed a referee once or twice in my time, but
take a page out of Terry's book right now and just tell you it's a zebra's fault.
There we go. But we'll get to the last part of the show, looking at the last 5 years for the Wings and their futures for this year. Obviously, last 5 years, no playoffs. A couple shortened seasons there. Last year, 32, 40, and 10. They were flirting with the playoffs for a while there, but kind of fell out of it at the end of the season. Now, 84.5 point total. So will they increase their point total by 11 points this year? They did make a lot of additions, but they are in a tough division. So for me, point total, no play for me there. To make the playoffs at plus 290, I think that's a bet that's going to make my card. Not that I'm saying this Detroit team is a lock to make the playoffs or anything like that, but plus 290 is pretty good value, and I could see if this Wings team is flirting with the playoffs or just in a playoff spot near the trade deadline. I could see Stevie Y making some moves. I'm not going to throw out, I guess I will throw out a name out there. Ryan O'Reilly is a UFA that hasn't signed. I'm sure St. Louis will want to resign him, but maybe there's a reason he isn't getting re-signed.
Right.
And the Red Wings go after a center like that. That would be a great addition. Just there's moves Stevie Y could make. And if the Wings are flirting with the playoffs, I think plus 290 is a good bet to make the playoffs. To win the division, no, I don't see the Wings being good enough in the division that they are in to win it. And to win the cup, it would take a miracle, but it's not impossible. I'll say that. Lenny, we'll go to you second here. What do you think futures and the last 5 years for your Wings?
Listen, I mean, I'm on all of it. I'm on all of it. I'm going to run it. I'm going to run it. And I'm going to run it. Listen, to make the playoffs, I think that they flirt with the playoffs in all realistic thought. I mean, the handicapper side of me, there's good value there for them to make the playoffs and a chance. Be like an outside team looking in, maybe on that bubble spot. I think they can get in. They'll win the division. I mean, it's a terrible teams in that division to go against. I mean, Florida, Toronto, Tampa, all those teams. I mean, look, you're going to have to get 100 points to get in, if not high 90s. I don't know if a 20-point, like going from 74 points to 94 points is maybe going to get you in. But I think as far as the point total, they get over 84.5. And I will say that not even because of not just because of the additions, but the coaching move with Derek Lalonde. Jeff Blashill is right behind Thomas Greiss in the street of people I want to whip ass. I don't like that guy either. I think Derek Lalonde is a great addition to this coaching staff, and I think going to mold those young guys into a defensive juggernaut. I can't say that with a straight face, but I do think they have an outside chance. And I'm going to bring up this goofy ass trend because I saw it, I read it, and I'm running with it. Every time the Colorado Avalanche win the cup, the next year the Detroit Red Wings win the cup. So take my $20 on the Wings to win the cup at plus 6,000. Take it.
There you go. Ian, futures for the Wings. What do you think?
I am tempted too by the over point total in the yes to make the playoffs. I really think they can. It's going to be close, though. I mean, I think they can because, look, I think they're a little bit better goaltending than both Ottawa and Buffalo. I think that's what could swing it in their favor. Although, to be honest, I kind of like Buffalo's blue line a little bit better than Detroit's top to bottom. Ottawa's has still got to prove something to me. But it's going to be very close. But I think at the prices you're looking at, I don't mind taking the shot with the plus 290 to make the playoffs, the over point total, because I think that they are going to be able to score goals. The top three lines are great. And I think the blue line, there's people that are saying this, there's a lot of differing opinion from other hockey bettors and people that I respect in their opinion when it comes to hockey and hockey betting, that with the Detroit blue line, that's where you see a lot of different opinions. I think they're going to be at least okay, if not maybe good. I think they have a ceiling to be good because I like Ben Sherratt. I like Ole Mata as a veteran defenseman. Mo Seider's going to get even better on that blue line. What Philip Hronek gets better. Again, the key is going to be you can't get injuries because you don't want this defense core to be littered with your Jake Wallmans and your Brian Lashoffs and your Mark Pesicks and guys like that. And they're having to play all of a sudden a lot of minutes because of the injuries. That's where they could get into some trouble. But the 1 through 6, assuming full health, I don't mind the blue line. I think it's actually a better blue line than some people think. So that's why I think Detroit, I'd put them ahead of Buffalo and Ottawa just a little bit because I think the back end and the goaltending is a little bit more stable for them. And then you throw in the Metro Division, and, I think the Metro Division's got a bunch of people with question marks and a bunch of teams with question marks. I see 2 great teams there, Rangers and Carolina, and then I see a bunch of mediocrity between, or at least question marks with Pittsburgh, with Washington. The Islanders, I don't think, are going to be great. I don't think New Jersey's ready to take that step. Philly's Philly, not going to be very good in my opinion. So that's your problem with that division. So it really is 2 wild card spots. Detroit's not going to be top 3 in the division. You've got to reserve those spots for Toronto, Tampa, and Florida in some order. No question about that. So then it's a wild card spot for Detroit, and you got every bit as good a chance as a lot of these other teams in both divisions, Atlantic and Metro, to be in a wild card team. This Detroit Red Wings team, especially when you saw, the level of play and how tough they were on teams down the stretch. They made it. I saw many games where, they're playing Tampa Bay, they're playing Florida down the stretch, teams in their own division, and they were giving them a hard time, and making it difficult on them. So again, with continued progress, and Detroit at the very least is going to be a playoff contender and a chance to get in. And a chance to get in is all you need, in my opinion, to take a shot at plus 290.
Yeah, I totally agree again.
Don't
Vito?
let us in. Don't let us in real quick. Don't let us in because we will make noise if we get there. I'm just saying.
Oh, they'd be loose as a goose and nothing to lose, playing with house money. You go up against Rangers or Carolina or Florida or whoever in the first round, and they're the team with expectations. They're the team with, hoping to make a deep playoff run, and here's loose and comfortable, and Detroit rolling in there and just ready to play their game and
throwing haymakers.
The hell out of somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe the Wings take out the Leafs in the first round. That would drive the Leafs fans absolutely nuts.
They'll clean house.
That hasn't made the playoffs forever. That's been so bad, knocks them out. That would just
Shanahan and Dubas are going to have to get their resumes ready, polished off.
Little old original 6, old school rivalry right there.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Shanahan,
the team that Shanahan played most of his career for, cost him his job in Toronto. If that were to happen.
I love it.
that would be pretty crazy. Vito, what do you think here? Futures and last 5 years for the Wings.
Yeah, talking a little bit about this division, I think the better opponents you play, the better you get, So if not this year, it's just better in the long term. I think, so that's not a bad thing. I mean, and talking about the team, I mean, this team is known for years that they make playoffs. I mean, how many years consecutively they made the playoffs, like 20 or even more. So yeah, the last 5 years they have not made the playoffs, but you can see it very well by the points. There was like 73, 74, then they perhaps went into like deeper rebuild or anything, and then there's just upwards from that time. So now we have some great additions. So to make the playoffs, well, I mean, what they need to do in this division, they need to win Sabres, Senators, and Canadians. So if they are better than those three teams, perhaps then they can fight for their playoff spot, right? So I don't know. Well, Panthers perhaps is going to be good, but you never know, if they're going to be again good. Perhaps they're going to be good, but we're going to see how it's going to go, I think it's hard to predict this NHL sometimes, especially in the beginning. So Red Wings, they could be fifth, and they could be fighting with that Boston perhaps, right, for the fourth spot. So at plus 290, I think that's a decent value. Why not, as a Red Wings fan? I don't bet these futures at all, but I like a couple of them. I mean, there is obviously some edge you can take, So I like this Red Wings point total. I think, yeah, they can perhaps go it over. Perhaps they can make the playoffs. I like those two bets. Well, obviously, those rest of the bets are kind of like pizza money or whatever, $20 bets. Well, I'm not taking those. But point total and to make the playoffs, yeah, I can sprinkle that one. Why not? So overall, that's my take.
All right. And that is the Detroit Red Wings show. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We've done most of the teams so far. I think we have 6 left. We'll tune in and check the YouTube channel for the dates, and we'll have all those coming to finish off by the end of the week. We'll finish off the division. So tune in there. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the content, smash the like button. Appreciate all the support. Follow everybody. Myself, Vito, Lenny, Ian, all of our links to our Twitters will be in the description below. So make sure to give everyone a follow. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Have a good one, guys.